And joining me now from our nation's capital is Holly Wade, Executive Director of the NFIB Research Center. Holly, it's great to have you on the show today. And what were your top takeaways from this latest report?
Well, the top takeaways from March is that small business owners are trying to navigate some choppy waters, and their expectations on sales improving over the next quarter have edged back quite a bit. Also, business conditions going forward, very uncertain for a lot of small business owners on how the shifting priorities of the administration from the previous administration will impact their business. They're certainly still optimistic about what it looks like for a more friendly regulatory environment and preserving those tax provisions from 2017, but there's a lot of movement going on right now, and so uncertainty is still very high for the small business sector.
I want to hear more about the tax expectation and how small businesses see taxes, what they cited about taxes in this particular report.
So taxes, as their single most important problem, rose to 18%. And so that they're now second only to labor. If you look at labor combined, it's about a third of small business owners find varying labor components their most important problem: labor, quality of labor, and labor costs. But taxes are right below labor quality as far as the single most important problem. And that is in reference to a lot of those tax provisions that are expiring at the end of the year. And small business owners, the last thing they need is a tax increase that they need to absorb into their business. So they're looking for the preservation of those tax provisions that were really helpful for them in operating their business and reinvesting in their business.
There are several different factors, Holly, that I want to go one by one here to get your take on based on the findings in this report. And let's start with tariffs, because certainly we know trade talk has been a major mover here on Wall Street of late. How do these owners view tariffs?
Well, right now, they're still trying to navigate how these tariffs are going to impact them, to the extent that they'll impact them. It might take some time for them to figure that out and how to adjust business operations accordingly. The higher tariff rates, many of those provisions will go into effect tomorrow. And so the scope of our survey for March was outside of the big announcement last week related to tariffs. So they're still trying to navigate what it looks like for them. Again, it's promoting kind of that level of uncertainty that is difficult for small business owners, and trying to figure out how to invest in their business, kind of the right adjustments to make to keep their business moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And what are the expectations on inflation, Holly? We have seen estimates that expect that tariffs will lead to higher inflation.
So they are planning on prices, their prices increasing in the next quarter. More small business owners did say that those price pressures, whether they're anticipating tariffs or related to compensation increases for trying to retain and recruit those employees and applicants for those open positions. They still have very high level of open positions that they're trying to fill. So all of those those price increases and potential price increases are impacting how they view that environment.
Mm-hmm. Recession. Of course, there are concerns with tariffs that we could see slower growth, higher inflation, whether it's stagflation or a potential recession. Those are questions that are circulating now in this environment. Did small business owners give us any sort of glimpse into whether or not they anticipate that for themselves?
Well, more small business owners in our March survey are concerned about business conditions moving forward in the next 6 months and how that might impact their business. That did decline quite a bit from the previous month in February. So that's a question that we certainly look towards as far as their just general sentiment of business conditions in the next 6 months. But when we ask them about their business specifically, 2/3 of them still say their business is in good health, either excellent or good. And so we haven't seen any cracks so far in how they perceive their own business. But looking forward, they do see some choppy waters that they'll likely have to navigate.
One more quick question, Holly, that I want to ask is when we had gotten certainty with the election, in the wake of that, we saw the stock market rise. We saw small business owners be very optimistic because they felt as if they had certainty. It seems as if that has changed. Is that anything that you or owners would have foreseen?
Well, with any new administration, you're going to have a lot of adjustments based on the priorities of the new administration. And we did see right after the election a decline in our uncertainty index. Small business owners were more certain of it moving forward with a more friendly business environment. And many of them still feel that way. Certainly, they're optimistic. The optimism index is just below the 98% over the last, or 98 points over the last 51 years, as you mentioned earlier. But we have seen over the last few months an increase in uncertainty and then a decrease. So it's a bit of uncertainty whiplash right now, as far as small business owners trying to figure out how different policy agendas will impact their business. And that's a tough place for small business owners, specifically because it's the owner who's having to navigate all of these concerns and how to adjust their business accordingly. So it does put a lot of pressure on small business owners, but they're trying to move through it as best they can. And we'll see how this kind of unravels in the next month or two, as far as the impact on tariffs of the small business sector.
Holly Wade, Executive Director of the NFIB Research Center, joining us from DC. Holly, thank you.